Let me read this again. Now therefore refrain from me, and speak no more such words as these, for I will not hearken unto thy words. Joseph held his ground with this woman. This woman was vexing him daily to give it up. And he stood his ground. And I'm very sure this woman was a very attractive woman. Make no mistakes about that. She would have been tempting to any regular man. But Joseph was a godly man and he held his ground. But Zedekiah would not hearken to Joseph. She tried to wear him down. She was persistent. When he spoke these words unto her, but she daily enticed him to listen to her. That's why I want to read that again. And it was after this that the brook of Egypt was filled above its sides, and all the inhabitants of Egypt went forth, and also the king and the princes went forth with timbrels and dances, for it was great rejoicing in Egypt, and a holiday at the time of the inundation of the sea, Sihor, or Sihor. And they went there to rejoice all the day. And when the Egyptians went out to the river to rejoice, as it were their custom, all the people of the house of Potiphar went with them, but Zedekiah would not go with them, for she said, I am indisposed. And she remained alone in the house, and no other person was with her in the house. And she rose up and ascended to her temple in the house, and dressed herself in princely garments. She dressed herself in princely garments, and she placed upon her head precious stones of onyx stones, inlaid with silver and gold. She beautified her face and skin with all sorts of women's purification liquids, and she perfumed the temple and the house with cassia and frankincense, and she spread mirth and aloes. And she afterwards sat in the entrance of the temple, in the passage of the house, through which Joseph passed to do his work. This woman do not quit. She's like a cartoon character. She remind you of what the cartoon. And behold, so she beautified herself, purified herself, got herself. She put the smell goods on. She really trying to work old Joseph here. She made herself beautiful bait. Joseph came from the field and entered the house to do his master's work. He didn't get a day off. And he came to the place through which he had to pass. And she saw all the work of Zedekiah. And he turned back. He said, oh no, time to get out of here. He knew what was up. And Zedekiah, is her name, knew Joseph turning back from her, and she called out to him, saying, what aileth thee, Joseph? Why are you sick, Joseph? What's bothering you? Come to thy work, and behold, I will make room for thee until thou have passed to thy seat. And Joseph returned and came to the house and passed from thence to the place to his seat. And he sat down to do his master's work as usual. And behold, Zedekiah came to him and stood before him in princely garments, and the scent from her clothes was spread to a distance. She had smell goods on. And she hastened and caught hold of Joseph in his garments. And she said unto him, as the king liveth, if thou wilt not perform my request, thou shalt die this day. And she hastened and stretched forth her other hand and drew a sword from beneath her garments. And she placed it upon Joseph's neck. And she said, rise and perform my request. If not, thou shalt die this day. You know what they call that, don't you, folks? Come on, raise your hand if you know if you try to take force by sex. What is it called? Now, a woman's doing it, so most men wouldn't think nothing of it, but it's still rape. She's trying to rape Joseph. Sex against his will. It's called rape. Even if a woman does it. See, this woman was ahead of her time. This woman was ahead of her time here. Let's see. All right, let me see. Let's go back to where was I at? And she hastened and caught hold of Joseph in his garments. Let's read that again. See, the Bible is a very exciting book. If you would take the traditional filters off, it's better than any soap opera, any movie. Most of the movies actually are based around the Bible anyway. It's where a lot of writers get their ideas, to be honest. But the Bible's an exciting book. If you take traditions of men off and just read the book as it is, without the traditions on, that tries to water down and dull and nullify God's word, when it's exciting. If you just read it as is, this is exciting here. This woman's raping this man. How many of you know this? That Joseph was a victim of rape, or attempted rape. And she hastened and caught hold of Joseph and his garments. And she said to him, as the king liveth, if thou wilt not perform my request, thou shalt die this day. And she hastened and stretched forth her other hand and drew a sword from beneath her garment. And she placed it upon Joseph's neck. And she said, rise and perform my request. And if not, thou diest this day. And Joseph was afraid of her at her doing this thing, and he rose up to flee from her. And she seized the front of his garments, and in terror of his flight, the garment which Zedekiah seized was torn. And Joseph left the garment in the hand of Zedekiah and fled, and got out, for he was in fear. Can you blame Joseph? At this point, this woman seems crazy. She is totally obsessed. And Joseph was afraid of her. Let's read that again. And Joseph was afraid of her at her doing this thing, and he rose up to flee from her. And she seized the front of his garments in the terror of his flight. The garment which Zedekiah seized was torn, and Joseph left the garment in the hand of Zedekiah. And he fled and got out, and he was in fear. And when Zedekiah saw that Joseph's garment was torn, and that he had left it in her hand, and had fled, she was afraid of her life, lest the report should spread concerning her. And she rose up and acted with cunning, and put off the garments in which she was dressed. She was afraid that word got out that she was so desperate she tried to rape a man, being Potiphar's wife, the governor's wife. So she didn't want that to get out. So she said, I'll flip the script and set him up instead for rape, instead of me. She was the rapist. When she dressed and she put off her other garments, and she took Joseph's garment, and she laid it beside her, and she went and seated herself in the place where she had sat in her illness, before the people of her house had gone out to the river. And she called a young lad who was then in the house, and she ordered him to call the people of the house to her. And when she saw them, she said to them with a loud voice and lamentation, see what a Hebrew your master has brought to me in the house, for he came this day to lie with me. For when you had gone out, he came to the house, and seeing that there was no person in the house, he came to me and caught hold of me, and with intent to lie with me. And I seized his garments and tore them, and called out against him with a loud voice. And when I had lifted up my voice, he was afraid of his life, and left his garment before me and fled. And the people of her house spoke nothing, But their wrath was very much kindled against Joseph. And they went to his master and told him the words of his wife. And Potiphar came home enraged, and his wife cried out to him, saying, What is this thing that thou hast done unto me, in bringing a Hebrew servant into my house? For he came unto me this day to sport with me. Thus did he do unto me this day. This woman's lying through her teeth. And Potiphar heard the words of his wife, and he ordered Joseph to be punished with severe stripes. And they did so to him. So Joseph got beat for a lie. With his stripes, we are healed. Christ got beat. Remember, I keep showing the same analogy. Christ was falsely accused. Christ was innocent. He was guiltless. So was Joseph. So Joseph gets beat. And they did so to him. And while they were smiting him, Joseph called out with a loud voice. And he lifted up his eyes to heaven, and he said, O Lord God, thou knowest I am innocent of all these things. And why shall I die this day through falsehood by the hand of these uncircumcised wicked men, whom thou knowest? And whilst Potiphar's men was beating Joseph, he continued to cry out and weep. And there was a child there, 11 months old. And the Lord opened the mouth of the child. And he spake these words before Potiphar's men, who were smiting Joseph, saying, What do you want of this man? And why do you do this evil unto him? My mother speaketh falsely, and uttereth lies. Thus was the transaction. God is amazing. God opens up animals' mouths in the Bible. He'd open up a jackass mouth. We read earlier that he opened up a wolf's mouth to speak to Jacob, tell him he was innocent of the lies that they was perpetrating, his sons. And now he opens up a baby's mouth to testify against his own mother that she's lying. God is truly amazing. 11 months old and speaking. What do you want of this man, and why do you do this evil unto him? My mother speaketh falsely, and others lies. This was the transaction. And the child told them accurately all that happened, and all the words of Zedekiah to Joseph, day after day, did he declare unto them. And all the men heard the words of the child, and they wondered greatly at the child's words. And the child ceased to speak and became still. And Potiphar was very much ashamed at the words of his son. And he commanded his men not to beat Joseph anymore, and the men ceased beating Joseph. And Potiphar took Joseph and ordered him to be brought to justice before the priests, who were judges belonging to the king, in order to judge him concerning this affair. And Potiphar and Joseph came before the priests, who were the king's judges. And he said unto them, Decide, I pray you, what judgment is due to this servant, for thus he hath done. And the priest said unto Joseph, Why didst thou this thing to thy master? And Joseph answered them, saying, Not so, my lords. Thus was this matter. And Potiphar said unto Joseph, Surely I entrusted in thy hand all that belongeth to me, and I withheld nothing from thee, but my wife. And couldst thou not do, and how couldst thou do this evil? And Joseph answered, said, Not so, my lord, as the Lord liveth, and as thy soul liveth, my lord, the words which thou didst hear from thy wife is untrue. For thus was the affair this day. A year has elapsed to me since I have been in thy house. Hast thou seen any iniquity in me, or anything which might cause thee to demand my wife? And the priest said unto Potiphar, Send, we pray thee, and let them bring before us Joseph's torn garment, and let us see the tear in it. And if it shall be that the tear is in front of the garment, then his face must have been opposite to her, and she must have caught hold of him to come to her. And with deceit did thy wife do all this she has spoken. And they brought Joseph's garment before the priests, who were judges, and they saw, and behold, the tear was in the front of Joseph. And all the judging priests knew that she had pressed him. And they said, the judgment of death is not due to this slave, for he has done nothing. But his judgment is he be placed in prison house on account of the report which through him has gone forth against thy wife. And Potiphar heard their words, and he placed him in the prison house, and the place where the king's prisoners were confined. And Joseph was in the house of confinement 12 years. 12 years. He did for a crime he did not commit. That's unfair. Sure it is. How many of you heard me over the years say life ain't fair, God ain't fair? But this was all training. This was all part of God's backside of the mountain training for Joseph to get him ready to rule and reign in Egypt. And he had to be tough. And this was part of his toughening process. Rough and tough. Beef jerky Christians is what God is populating heaven with. And Joseph, even though treated unjustly, served his time, and this made him tough. And notwithstanding that his master's wife did not turn from him, and she did not cease from speaking to him day after day to hearken to her. And at the end of 3 months, Zedekiah continued going to Joseph to the house of confinement day by day. This woman does not stop. Now she's going to visit him in jail. After putting him in jail, after lying to put him in jail, she is so obsessed. Like he really want to see her. Yeah, you got to visit her again, Joseph. Zedekiah coming again. Joseph got to visit every day. He had a visit. And notwithstanding this, his master's wife did not turn from him, and she did not cease from speaking to him, day after day, to hearken to her. And at the end of 3 months, Zedekiah continued going to Joseph to the house of confinement day by day. What's going on with this governor? This man need to get a new wife. And she enticed him to hearken to her. And Zedekiah said unto Joseph, how long wilt thou remain in this house? But hearken now to my voice, and I will bring thee out of this house. And Joseph answered her, saying, it is better for me to remain in this house than to hearken to thy words to sin against God. And she said unto him, if thou wilt not perform my wish, I will pluck out thine eyes and add fetters to thy feet, and I will deliver thee to the hands of them whom thou didst not know before. And Joseph answered her and said, behold, the God of the whole earth is able to deliver me from all that thou camest to do unto me. For he openeth the eyes of the blind, and looseth that they are bound, and preserveth all strangers who are unacquainted with the land. And when Zedekiah was unable to persuade Joseph to hearken to her, she left off going to entice him. And Joseph was still confined in the house of confinement. And Jacob, the father of Joseph, and all the brethren who were in the land of Canaan still mourned and wept in those days on account of Joseph. For Jacob refused to be comforted for his son Joseph. And Jacob cried out aloud and wept and mourned in those days. Well, his son was still alive, just in prison. And it was at that time, in that year, which is the year of Joseph's going down to Egypt after his brethren had sold him. And Reuben, the son of Jacob, went to Timnah, and took unto him for a wife Elam, the daughter of Abi, the Canaanite. And he came to her. And Elam, the wife of Reuben, conceived, and bare him Hanok, Pula, and Cheshbon, and Carmi, and 4 sons. And Simeon his brother took his sister, Dinah. And Simeon his brother took his sister Dinah for a wife, and she bare unto him Mumiel, Yamin, Ohad, Jacob, and Zachar, 5 sons. And he afterward came to Bunah, the Canaanite woman, and the same is Bunah, which Simeon took captive from the city of Shechem. And Bunah was before Hannah, and attended upon her. And Simeon came to her, and she bare unto him Saul. And Judah went at that time to Adullam, and he came to a man of Adullam, and his name was Hira. And Judah saw there the daughters of the man from Canaan, and her name was Aleah, the daughter of Shua. And he took her and came to her, and Aleah bare unto Judah Onan, Shiloh, 3 sons. And Levi and Issachar went to the land of the east, and they took unto themselves to wives the daughters of Jobab, the son of Joktan, the son of Eber. And Jobab and the son of Joktan had 2 daughters. The name of the elder was Adinah, and the name of the younger was Aridah. And Levi took Adinah, and Issachar took Aridah, and they came to the land of Canaan, to their father's house. And Adonai bare unto Levi Gershon, and Keith, and Merari, 3 sons. And Arioth bare unto Issachar Tola, Pula, Job, and Jocham, 4 sons. And Dan went to the land of Moab, and took for wife Appeloth, the daughter of Chudam, the Moabite. And then he brought her back to the land of Canaan. And Appeloth was barren, and he had no offering. And God afterward remembered Appeloth, his wife of Dan, and she conceived and bare a son, and she called his name Shushan. And Gad and Naphtali went to Haran, and took from thence the daughters of Amram, and the son of Uz, the son of Nahor, for wives. And these are the names of the daughters of Amram. The name of the elder was Mimra, and the name of the younger was Yosef. And Naphtali took Merimah, and Gad took Uzah, and brought them to the land of Canaan, to their father's house. And Miriam bare unto Naphtali Yaxiel, Guham, Jazer, Shalem, and sons. And Yosef bare unto Gad Zephion, Shagai, Shuni, Hezbon, Eri, Arobi, and Arali, 7 sons. And Asher went forth and took Adam, the daughter of Aphro, the son of Hadad, and the son of Ishmael, for a wife, and he brought her to the land of Canaan. And Adam, the wife of Asher, died in those days. She had no offspring. And it was after, where was I at? She had no offspring. And it was after the death of Adam that Asher went to the other side of the river, and took for a wife Harada, the daughter of Abiel, the daughter of Eber, the son of Shem. And the young woman was of a comely appearance, and a woman of sense, and she had been the wife of Machiel, the son of Elam, the son of Shed. And Hadarah bare a daughter unto Machiel, and he called her name Sherah, or Sherah. And Malchiel died after this. And Hadurah went and remained in her father's house. And after the death of the wife of Asher, he went and took Hadarah for a wife, and brought her to the land of Canaan. And Sherach her daughter, he also brought with him, and she was 3 years old. And the damsel was brought up in Jacob's house. And the damsel was of comely appearance, and she went in the sanctified ways of the children of Jacob. She lacked nothing, and the Lord gave her wisdom and understanding. And Hadarah, the wife of Asher, conceived and bare unto him Yimnah, and Yishba, and Yishvi, and Beriah, 4 sons. And Zebulun went to Median, and took for a wife Marisha, the daughter of Molad, and the daughter of Abida, the son of Midian, and brought her to the land of Canaan. And Marisha bare unto Zebulun Sarah, Yachmiel, 3 sons. And Jacob said to Aaron, the son of Zoba, the son of Terah, and he took for his son Benjamin, Melchi, the daughter of Aaron, and she came to the land of Canaan, to the house of Jacob. And Benjamin was 10 years old when he took Melchi, the daughter of Aaron, for a wife. Why? He had married young. And Melchi conceived, and bare unto Benjamin Bela, Becca, Ashbel, Gera, Naaman, 5 sons. And Benjamin went afterward, and took for a wife Abereth, the daughter of Shuram, the son of Abraham, in addition to his first wife, and he was 18 years old. And Abereth bare unto Benjamin Aki, Vosh, Mutum, Shuppim, and Ord, 5 sons. And in those days Judah went to the house of Shem, and took Tamar, the daughter of Elam, the son of Shem, for a wife, for his firstborn And Ur came to his wife, Tamar, and she bare his wife. And when he came to her, he outwardly destroyed his seed, and his work was evil in the sight of the Lord. And the Lord slew him. And it was after the death of Ur. He was so evil, God killed him. And it was after the death of Ur, Judah's firstborn. What he did is now the promised seed was to come through Christ, the line of Judah. So basically what he did was, when he was having sex, he took it out, and instead of, how can I say this, ejaculating inside his wife, he took it out and ejaculated on the outside of his wife. And God seen that as evil, because that seed was supposed to be Christ, come through him, the line of Judah. So he took that very person, just like with Esau, forfeiting his birthright. It was on the same level. Christ was to come through that birthright, the Messiah. So God killed him. God killed in person, by the way. And the Lord slew him, so you clear. And it was after the death of Ur, Judah's firstborn, Judah said unto Onan, Go into thy brother's wife, and marry her as the next of kin, and raise up the seed to thy brother. And Onan took Tamar for a wife. Boy, old Tamar's having some bad luck here. And he came to her, and Onan also did like the work of his brother. He did the same thing. pulled out, ejaculated on the outside of her. And his work was evil in the sight of the Lord. And he slew him also. So God's, he's 0 for 2. Or 2, is it 2 or no? He done took 2 out in a row. It's 2 and 0, I think that's what. And when Onan died, Judah said unto Tamar, remain in thy father's house until my son Shiloh also have grown up. And Judah did not no more delight in Tamar. He said, this woman is bad luck, slut rock for my sons. I'm losing too many sons. This is, old Tamar is tainted. Boy, the Bible's exciting, isn't it? So he said, I ain't gonna lose another son. That's what Judah said not to this woman. And when Omar died, Judah said unto Tamar, remain in thy father's house until my son Shiloh have grown up. And Judah did so. More delight in Tamar to give her unto Shiloh, for he said, maybe he will also die like his brothers. And Tamar rose up and went and remained in her father's house. And Tamar was in her father's house for some time. And the revolution of year of Elith, the wife of Judah, died. And Judah was comforted for his wife. I'm glad this witch is dead. He was happy. It's time to go out and party now. And after his death, Eliah, Judah went up with his friend Hira to Timnah to shear the sheep. Time to go party, boys. She's dead. And Tamar heard that Judah had gone up to Timnah to shear the sheep, and Shiloh was grown up, and Judah did not delight in her. And Tamar rose up and put off the garments of her widowhood, and put a veil upon her, and she entirely covered up, and she went and sat in a public thoroughfare, which is up on the road of Timnah. So she hit the street. Tamar said, it's time to play the hog here. And in them days,